Well, the psychological resiliency factor is really, really important because you're not going to be a good leader when you need to lead. If you haven't thought about that, prepared for that moment, what you'll do is you'll be like everybody else in the room. You'll be all sitting there going, "I wonder what we're going to do," and they're all looking at you.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. Today with me, a gentleman who has suffered the loss of an oldest son, beat cancer twice, and has been shot at in a few exotic countries. He is a retired Navy SEAL officer and combat vet who's currently serving as a mid-market CEO. He also serves as a director on the board of two companies. While he is the author of 9 novels, his expertise and passion are leading dynamic organizations. His insights are captured in 2 of his business books, Be Nimble and Be Visionary. Welcome, Marty Strong. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah, I can't wait to start digging into some of this. You're definitely probably one of the ones we'll invite back, Marty, because there's just so much that I feel you can offer us. I mean, I believe you were actually in the Navy over 20 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, 20
So
years.
you've got a lot of experience. You've got a lot of experience as being a leader, even um, outside the military as well. So I'm looking very forward to digging in to all this material with you. The first thing that I'm always enamored by SEALs, of course, and probably a lot of us are now that it's you've got quite a few out there, Jocko and those kind of folks that
Yeah.
people are watching. But I think SEALs are just known for their ability to handle incredible stress. Uh, and I guess the question that I have is, do you think anybody can just learn how to do that? Because the stuff that you've gone through, what do they say? Like, what percentage actually make it? Is it 10, maybe?
Yeah, it depends on where you start. If you start with the beginning of the intake funnel,
Mm.
there's roughly about 500 on paper qualified people for every buds class. That gets chopped down to about 300 to 350 that get orders to actually start the 6-month training. And traditionally, going all the way back to 62, 75% of them don't make it to graduation. So you've gone from 500 to 350 and down to 25% of that number making it through. And that's pretty much been consistent. Peacetime, wartime, they've tried all kinds of different ways to improve it, but it seems to keep coming up 75-25.
Well, yeah, getting back to that question though, is that handling that amount of stress, is that something any leader can learn to do?
I think so. I think that you have an edge when you're young if you've gone through a lot of stress before you show up, obviously for a job, before you show up for military service. If you've already been through the psychological ringer for whatever reason, a lot of it comes from divorced families. Sometimes it's, abusive relationships with family members. It could be poverty. There could be lots of different reasons and bullying. But if you show up and you've got a pretty good sense of psychological resilience on day one, you've got kind of a natural inoculation against a lot of stress that really drives normal people crazy, right? In a training program like the SEALs, the training actually doesn't really start until after the basic course of 6 months. They teach you a little bit about diving, a little bit about demolitions and shooting and military operations, but the real advanced, real SEAL type training starts after that. What they're really doing, especially for the first 1/3 of that period, is they're trying to put the people through the crucible of physical stress because they know physical stress eventually becomes emotional and intellectual stress. And they let the process just kind of do it. They don't try to do too much overtly. People get tired, they don't get as much sleep, they get tired, they don't get as much sleep. You're jacking up how much exercise they're doing, so now they're more tired. And then the little voice in their head starts to come up and goes, "Hey, you really sure you want to do this?" And so depending on how their psychological makeup is coming in, they resist that voice or they succumb to that voice. And therefore, everybody that kind of makes it through the first third, the famous Hell Week is in the first third. They are probably the appropriate base ingredient to become a successful special operator. So if you think of that process, you go, okay, so that can be replicated elsewhere. That can be replicated in a police academy or a fire academy. It can be replicated in corporate America. The I guess the legal element of how much stress can you impose on people, right, is the question. But you don't necessarily have to do physical things to create a short-term impression of psychological stress. And the way you could do it in the commercial world, even in a family, if you want to get your family prepared to deal with a fire or a disaster or whatever, you sit them down, you walk them through all the things that could go wrong. What are we going to do? What's the plan? The car won't work. And they start going through the psychological mechanisms of what ifs and, oh, hell, what the hell is going to happen? And the fear starts creeping in. The unknown starts to take charge. The voice starts going off in their head. Is dad and mom going to be able to handle this? Are we going to be able to handle this? And you can do the same thing in corporate America. You just set them in a room and you start up all these scenario-based training sessions. We just lost our primary supplier. We just lost the one truck we have. Our two waitresses just quit. And it's a walkthrough, it's a talk through, it's a hypothetical, but every time you go through that, just like a boxer training and going into a ring, you're getting more and more and more comfortable with the known and the unknown.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Center for Victory's podcast. My name is Caleb Kolb. I'm the Chief Adventure Officer for Center for Victory. Today, we are on the Appalachian Trail, but I want to tell you about some cool things we have coming up. Probably our coolest trip we've got is rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, north to south. We do that in one day. It's going to be October 4th to the 6th. We'll fly into Scottsdale, take a bus up to the north side of the Grand Canyon. We'll stay in a hotel there. The next morning, we'll wake up and do rim to rim of the Grand Canyon, staying in the South Rim at Yavapai Lodge, and then busing back to Phoenix and flying out Sunday or Monday. So if you're interested, you can go to the Center for Victory website under Experiences tab. All the information is there. And if you're enjoying this podcast, like and subscribe. Join our tribe.
So a big part of your thing and what you're teaching and how you've been successful, I would say, was fairly around mindset, right? For any new leader out there, you've just been promoted into where you're going to be a leader. What kind of advice would you give somebody on mindset? What do they need to have here before they enter into that position of leadership?
Well, the psychological resiliency factor is really, really important because you're not going to be a good leader when you need to lead. If you haven't thought about that, prepared for that moment, what you'll do is you'll be like everybody else in the room. You'll be all sitting there going, I wonder what we're going to do. And they're all looking at you. And this is kind of the cliche, lots of movies, World War II, fill in the blank, whatever war you want to use, of the young officer who's kind of strutting around and they have the rank and everything, and all the enlisted guys are doing their job. And then all of a sudden they go on a mission and something fails. They don't get picked up on time. The bad guys do something. And what do the enlisted guys do? They all look at that officer. And in the cliche version of that, the officer is a young, untested, person that only has the rank but has zero experience, no wisdom, no judgment, because that's the drama that they want to show, right? And in a lot of wars, that's what happened. The officers didn't come from combat into your unit; they came from college, and so that is a good analogy for what a leader in any other walk of life should expect. If they see that kind of movie in their head, you don't want to wait to the day when the one truck fails, the two waitresses quit. You don't want to wait for that day. You want to start walking through in your mind all these contingency thoughts. What do I do if? What if I do if? Especially if somebody tells you as a leader, we're only one deep in a particular key category. So you're a single point of failure. If it's a person, you're one heartbeat away, that kind of thing. Don't just accept and go, okay. You got to start saying, what happens when that day happens? Can I train somebody else as a backstop? Should I train if it's a really small group to be able to do what that person does in a pinch while we're trying to find a replacement? That's where you start to take charge of the unknown. That's where you start to take charge of the emotion that's generated by an event that may or may not have been anticipated, but could take you and put you in the corner in a fetal position in about 20 seconds if you're not thinking about it in advance. So if you're a leader or about to be a leader, and I don't care what you're going to lead, you have to be a proactive thinker. You have to think in contingency planning mode all the time. Now, you can call it a mindset, it's a discipline, it's a professional requirement of the job. And nobody's really going to need you as a leader until the day they need you as a leader. Managers are not leaders. Managers are just, if you're managing the truck, you're driving down the truck, you're managing the truck. If all of a sudden some kid jumps out in front of you and you have to do something, now you've got to do something that's abnormal. Maybe the truck has to do something that's abnormal. And in that crisis moment, you have to do something different than just the standard mechanism of driving the truck. All the systems work, all the people show up on time, all the supplies show up when they're supposed to show up. Who needs a leader, right? The trains are on time, end of story. It's that moment where they aren't. It's that moment when things fall apart that leadership, in my definition of it, is is required and has to step in and fill the void of the unknown and calm everybody else down.
Okay, so kind of a two-part question here, Marty. When we talk about culture, how important is culture, one, in the SEAL teams, and then how do you create winning cultures in the businesses you lead?
So the difficulty in the comparison directly is, and it'll make common sense when I say it out loud, but the U.S. government spends about $2 million per SEAL in training, selection and training to a very high level before they're considered fully qualified as a SEAL. Not an expert, not super experienced, not even combat experience, just I would use you on a mission kind of level of capability and competence.
Okay.
Now think about that compared to the average workplace. Nobody's going to spend $2 million on anybody, not even the CEO. Doesn't matter. So there's a huge amount of training and nurturing and selection and vetting and filtering before you end up with a SEAL unit. There's hardly any of that when you end up with a department in a division, in a company. What normal companies do is the normal company will go and put out an application request for a very specific technical task, maybe some very specific credentials related to that task. They will look at the resumes. They'll pick the ones they think are most aligned with that. They'll interview them, and they'll down select those that answered in a way that's most aligned with the job description. And then they'll pick one, maybe because of economics, who will work for less, whatever. And then they pop them into the machine. And they do it over and over and over again at every level of the business. If you were a kid at a playground and you had your choice of the other kids running around the playground to play basketball, you would be a lot more discerning than most companies are in choosing your team. You would think, okay, who knows how to play basketball? Who's tall and knows how to play basketball? Who's quick, fast, can maneuver the ball? Who's a playmaker? And how can I get a couple of these people together? And that's my team. Because you're looking at lots of three-dimensional components here. You're looking at things that make a team a real team. It's the space between the job descriptions and the boxes on the org chart. Mm-hmm. It's how do they gel together? How do they communicate? How do they interact? And how do they integrate? And none of that stuff is ever really looked at by HR. It's not like they don't feel like they're picking a team. They throw the name team out. Everybody throws this thing team out. But that's really how you assemble a team. Professional sports organizations are out there scouting for the right person, the exact right person to plug into that exact situation. But they also have to work with everything else in the operation. They have to work with the other players. They have to work with the scheme and maneuver of the plays and the style of play that the coach wants to pursue. It's amazing how little goes into hiring people. Now, I say all that because if you want to establish a culture, you have to define the culture, and then you have to go back and back plan at the point of measurement and entry who you want in. And there's going to be a lot of things. I mean, the technical capability and competence, that's the bare minimum standard. And as soon as they're in, if they don't fit, you have to be willing to say this isn't working out. So you have to have some period, like a 90-day period or something, where say the fit's not good. And everybody that's in a good culture will know in a second when you basically, you drop a turd in the porridge. I mean, everybody knows it's a turd, it's in the porridge. Everybody can see it because they know what it looks like when it's wrong, and they know what it feels like when it's right. So in that kind of culture, everybody holds whoever hired the person. I'll switch from turd to person. Everybody knows who hired that person, and they all come to them and say, "You made a mistake." And it doesn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have the culture in the first place, there's no mechanism for any kind of feedback on whether a mistake was made. And if nobody cares about whether a mistake was made on all those other elements, then nobody even realizes a mistake was made. And then you don't have a culture. You just have a big assembly of people that were hired for different jobs at different points in time. And if they all show up in a conference room and they're called the planning team, that doesn't make them a team.
Very good points. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'd also like to, get your thoughts on uh, what your opinions are of the current workplace environment. Meaning, is it good to be remote? Is it good to be hybrid? Is it better to be together? I mean, just general thoughts on that because you have such a leadership background and experience. I just wondered what you saw as maybe some trends coming up for the because a lot of the people that listen to this obviously are working in
Sure.
businesses and companies.
Well, there's, I think, two perspectives. There's the business perspective, the owner, the operator, and then there's the perspective of everybody else that's in that business. And kind of back to the SEAL thing, everybody in a SEAL organization, they're basically fighting for God and country and for each other. And they're training hard so that they don't let the other people down around them. There's a lot of altruistic stuff wrapped in that. Nobody leaves at 4:59 because the day ends at 5. Nobody ever squawks about working late or working weekends. I mean, it's a different kind of world, right? That's one of the biggest shocks when somebody comes out of an elite unit and comes out of uniform and steps into the regular world, and they hear all the cars firing up in the parking lot at 3:59, an hour early, and then they're looking to try to solve a problem, and they see empty cubicles, and like, where are they? They're not there. You're trying to solve a problem because you're kind of mission focused, and they're not there because they're clock focused. So there's all kinds of different people and civilians in a commercial environment. You'll find there'll be 20% that are like the person I just mentioned, that are there to get the job done, do the mission, make it happen. They have a sense of purpose and professional pride about making sure things are done on time and all that. And it drives them nuts if everybody else is just looking at the clock and saying, I'm out of here, and not working weekends or something, no matter what the deadline is or whatever the consequences might be of missing that deadline. So it's not just a SEAL thing or a Green Beret thing or whatever. It's a human thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so you get into the organization and you find that, trying to see if I can do this in a very positive way. The the individuals that you can pull together and groom, say you've already hired them correctly. You said that they'll say that part's done. You have to groom them and hire them, and you have to use them in the context of what they want, in the context of what the business requires. So if the business requires a knowledge worker to be very accurate and they got to use a cloud-based system anyway, like accountants or something, does it matter to the business if that accountant is sitting in a cubicle or sitting at home? Functionally, from the business point of view, it shouldn't matter. If the accountant wants to be in a social environment, then fine, then let them work at work. To force them out of that is going to be a detriment to them. And if you are not a knowledge worker, for example, if your job is to train people to jump horses, kind of hard to do from a couch in another state. If there's some true functional, logical reason why somebody should be there in a tactile way, because that's what their job requires. Like their job is to pick up a widget, move it from point A to point B, or make sure that the robot machine that's moving widgets gets oiled every 5 minutes. You can't do that from another location. So there, even if the individual wants something different, it's impractical, and therefore that job doesn't exist. That job just doesn't exist defined that way. So there's always going to be a portion of our society where there's going to be a practical, functional, tactile connection that prohibits remoteness and virtual work. And then you have all the knowledge-based stuff, which I personally feel like if you want to work from home and you can get all this knowledge stuff done, I don't care if you work an 8-hour job in a 2-hour block of time at 2 to 4 in the morning. If your work is excellent, you're hitting your marks and it's on time and everything, I'm okay with that. Now, not all owners are. Some people say, well, old school is they still owe me 6 more hours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but you've got people who will come in for 8 hours and do 2 hours worth of work in 8 hours because that's the old structure, right? So you got to get kind of honest with yourself as a business owner or business leader. Like what you want is performance and excellence and outcome. Ask for that, demand that, set the standards, and then just shut up and let them do their thing. So those two extremes, you have to be face-to-face, tactile. There's no reason for you to be face-to-face, tactile. The problem is in the middle. The problem is things like creativity. Now, the internet was set up as ARPANET for universities and scientists to be able to coordinate and collaborate. It was set up for the point of planning and coordinating and creating remotely. But not all things that people are working on are scientific pieces of information and modules and things that can be exchanged easily and plugged in that remote way. So if you've got to sit down and work out something that's very human and very social, and you need all the thinkers in a room, I think you need to figure out a way to either have them there all the time or have them there when you need them to be there rather than remotely. Because everybody has their poker face on when they're on screen. You can tell in a conference room, especially somebody in charge, can sit back, be quiet and let everybody let the sparks fly. And you can see who cares, who doesn't care, who's into it, who's prepared, who's not prepared, who's asleep. You can
Mm-hmm.
see everything, right?
Right.
But then you put them on this format and everybody stares at it kind of like a depressed version of the Brady Bunch. And nobody wants to show anything other than, I'm attentive and but so you can't tell if they care, if they're prepared. You lose all those human tells as a leader and everybody else too, because that excitement and that energy and that emotion ignites something between human beings. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you're at a bar or you're with friends, and one guy tells a story, all of a sudden that sparks another story, and he tells a story, and sometimes you interrupt, and sometimes the guy won't let you, sometimes he does because it's a better story. And that human interface is the same way you do deep creativity and innovation. Almost impossible to do that remotely, not as a human being anyway, in my opinion.
All right. Thanks for that. Next thought. Young leaders, these are the folks that have just come out of college, university, trade school. We hear a lot of different things about them and how they're different from our generations, how they might be a little soft, not ready to lead, not ready to manage, not ready to even work sometimes. And I want to keep this, positive because I want you as kind of the expert to maybe give us some advice on I don't see the whole generation being like that. There are obviously signs. I think that's why people are saying those things. I definitely do not see that in my kids. They've both been in the workforce for a couple years and are pretty hard chargers and going on to get their graduate degrees already. What are your thoughts on that with your insight into giving some tips to folks that are in that age group and even to managers that might be or people, companies that might be accepting these folks into their work environments?
I think it split it into two different categories. The first category is the age and things that are normal about youth, going probably back to the beginning of youth. And the second part is the parenting style that they were raised under. So in the first part, I don't think there's anything biologically different from a 16-year-old kid now or in the 60s or in the 1940s. I mean, there's nothing biologically different. Their brain is still having a hard time lock on to anything, and their mind's scattered, and they don't know what they want to do, who they want to be. That's just the biology of being a young person. And if you take that a couple steps forward to say 2021, nobody knows what the heck they want to be when they're 20 or 21. They know what they've been told to be, but they don't know what they really want to be. And that universal human conflict has been going on forever, because usually in ancient times, say up until about the 80s, your parents were the reason you were in conflict, because they were the ones telling you what you had to be. And you didn't want to be that, but that was their vision, right? Now, if you take that aside, then you go back to the type of parenting. If you're raised like I was by two depression era farm kids, that were born like 2 years after the 1929 stock market crash. You're going to get a whole lot of blue collar ethic in your raising because, in their opinion, the whole world was there dancing and having a great time and everything was perfect. And all of a sudden, it just went to hell in a handbasket and stayed that way for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, that generation are the ones that, you don't waste anything, and work is noble, and everybody helps produce some kind of return for the family because there's never enough money made by one or two parent breadwinners. Everybody's got to get out there and get a paper route or get mow lawns or whatever, right? That was their world. And so they put that on top of the kids, which are the baby boomers. And the baby boomers were raised with probably, in almost any case you look at it back before that, almost a desperate desire to prove their parents wrong by being all the things their parents said they had to be. Better workers, make more money, bigger house. I mean, it was like, we're going to overachieve because you kept telling us how it's going to be so bad. Well, it's not going to be so bad. But what they didn't realize is they were given the gift of the drive and of the paranoia of their parents, but they were also given the gift of a work ethic by being forced out when they're 10, 11 years old and they're shoveling snow for $5. So they got a lot of hard knocks and I was talking before about the psychological resilience. Well, there's a little bit of that too. When you've got, you're 2 minutes or 10 minutes into shoveling a driveway and you're exhausted, pissed off, and bored as a 14-year-old kid, and you still have 2 hours of work in front of you and you're getting cold, you know, that's a good psychological exercise. So fast forward, what did the baby boomer parents do? Well, we're not going to do what our parents did to us. We're not going to treat our kids like it's the depression. We're not going to treat our kids. We're not going to tell our kids to take all the extra food and put it in a jar and hide it in the cellar, for when everything falls apart. We're not going to tell them to stick their money in their mattresses, because banks are corrupt. We did the opposite. We told them, we've created this world for you. It's a wonderful world. And, if you want to go to college, we'll pay for it. And if you want a house, we'll help you. If you want to get married, we'll help you. And if things don't work out, you can come back into the house. And so we started that. And then those kids grew up and that's how they were raised. And they thought, this is what parents do. And oddly enough, it's what parents did before the Depression. Families brought everybody in, the grandparents helped, everybody helped, the whole family unit. If you're down on your luck, somebody in the family lent you somebody to help you get a job or your business or whatever. So we've kind of gone full circle back to where there wasn't an expectation that any individual was a superhuman and that they were the best worker, the best everything right out of the box. 20, 21 years old, they were, yeah. So I think that's where we are. And I think that the people in charge of industry are more baby boomers, and they're having a problem with what they see as the work ethic that they exercise and the way they behaved. But it's really not that. But it's also, there's a gap in some of this basic understanding of work ethic and things showing up on time. I mean, the anecdotal information you see all the time in articles is that, I'd rather hire a 45-year-old that shows up on time, gets the job done, and we meet our quotas, we meet our time frames, whatever, than to bring in somebody who's younger, who says, I don't have to work as long as you say I do. I don't have to show up when you tell me to do it. And I don't care if my job is to move the boxes from point A to point B. I want to do that remotely. Well, it's kind of a non-starter, right? Because that's not the job. Mm-hmm. So you're finding a lot of employers reaching up in the age bracket looking for some real basics: show up on time, do a complete job, tell you when something's wrong in a candid and honest manner so that you can do something about it. And those things I think are good behavior traits. And I don't really know how, other than just hard knocks, that a younger generation is going to see that for what it is. Meaning if they can't get a job anywhere, then they're going to have to conform and show up on time and all that kind of stuff. I think it'll work itself out eventually.
So next to last question here. What challenges then do you see for companies developing new leaders today?
It depends on the level of leadership. I think the challenge with senior leadership is that they've never been taught to be leaders. And unfortunately, all of a sudden they pop up to be the cherry on top of the on top of the cake, and everybody looks at them and says, okay, be the leader. And they don't know how to create strategies. They don't know how to create long-term plans. They don't know how to manage or organize larger organizations. They don't even know how to design them, let alone manage them, because they came from some smaller subset and they were moving up the ladder, so to speak, and all of a sudden, pop. The U.S. military actually prepares officers for that. In the Army, you go to a staff job to learn all the resource management, all the management skills, and all those things for 2 years. Then they send you to a leadership job, or you're leading an organization, troops, et cetera. So now you got the leadership stuff. Then you pop up the next rank, and now you're doing the same staff job at a higher level. Now you're managing budgets, and they do that all the way up until you're either out or you're in charge of the whole Army. Corporations don't do that. And so that would be a good way for corporations, any kind of company, to prepare people for that day when they start moving up, because then they're a leader in training as opposed to a surprise leader.
You're right.
And to expect somebody brand new walking in at the lower part of the structure to be a leader, if you can't expect the person at the top of the structure to be a good leader, is just nonsense. They're not going to. And unless they came from some place where they were leading, they're not going to be a leader. So you have to kind of define for them what you think leadership is. And then you have to give them a chance to fail a little bit. Because leadership, like wisdom, is the sum total of your mistakes. You get wisdom and judgment from screwing up, or watching other people screw up, or reading books about people that screwed up. You really have to. There's a lot of living and reading biographies, and it's something I suggest everybody do, because you don't have to screw up as much as everybody did, but it's hard to be a good leader and be wise and have good judgment if you've never made a mistake.
Good advice. Last question that we ask a lot of our guests here, Marty, and I'd love to have you back and talk about your books, because I have questions about those too, because there are lots of key nuggets in those. So hopefully we can have you back soon. But last question we ask a lot of our guests, just because it's called Your Best Day Yet. How would you go about defining your best day yet in personal and professional aspects?
Personal is probably having I have 5 grandkids and 5 kids, having all the grandkids here at my house, which happens once in a great while, and just being a part of the chaos. They're all younger than 8 years old, and that's a really good day for me personally, to because I see my kids, and my wife and I are, everybody's happy and everybody's not happy, and everybody's trying to fix things. Everybody's, and the kids are trying to disrupt things. It's just a really cool moment for me. Professionally, I think my best day is when an entire group of people have handled a really difficult challenge and stuck together emotionally. The integrity has stayed intact the whole way, and we get to the finish line. And in that moment, we all look at each other and realize what we'd accomplished. And we did it without attacking each other, without letting our baser natures take over when we were frustrated or worried or concerned. Um, maybe it's a little bit of the SEAL mission thing in me, but when you get off the helicopter or get off the boat, and you got all your guys, everybody's got their fingers and toes, and you all look at each other and you just kind of give a half smile and a nod. Maybe the next one won't be so good, but this was a good one. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, how can folks get a hold of you, Marty? Where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can go to martystrongbenimble.com. All my materials are there. I'm also on Amazon with all my books.
Yeah. And like I said, love to have you back on to talk about that, especially your new one here. Maybe we can unravel that next time, if you would so grace us again, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for watching and listening today, folks. That's all for this show. Make sure you like, subscribe, so you can get notified when we release these podcasts. If you want more information, visit us at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.